Australia's high school education performance has received a blow, with figures released today showing Australia has dropped in its rankings internationally. Education Minister Simon Birmingham admits there is clearly something wrong with the system. For more on this, I'm joined by Australian Education Union Acting President Maurie Mulheron. Maurie, great to see you today. Thanks so much for dropping in. These results that came out today shows Australia are dropping quite dramatically. There's 9 other countries are clearly ahead of us internationally. What do you put behind this decline?
Well, I think we've got to put in perspective, we're still above the OECD average, and we're still in front of countries like the USA, the UK, Belgium, Germany, France, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Portugal, Spain, Russia. So let's put in some kind of perspective. Yes, there is a decline, and the decline is caused by what the OECD through this PISA report said, is how very inequitable education system. We've got one of the highest disparities between advantaged students and disadvantaged students, and that's getting wider each and every year. And the OECD is saying you cannot have high achievement and low equity. Right. You need to have high equity and high achievement, and those successful countries have tackled that problem. They have high achievement and high equity. So that's why we are still backing the Gonski report, which had exactly the same findings when it was released. Okay,
so let's look at some of those countries that stream above us. That equity has been managed. Now, has that been through funding into lower education schools, for example, better funding there so that those kids get up to an equal level, or is it with a more standardised education system across all levels of education?
A combination of those things.
Right.
Some of them are city-states like Hong Kong and Singapore, and they're very homogenous systems. They don't have the huge disparities between private and government. They're very small. Yet we're a country that's so large. We've got schools in remote areas that are 10 or 12 hours drive from the nearest centre. We've got very large Indigenous populations in very disadvantaged communities. And what we've got, and what the OECD PISA report showed, is that we've got the greatest concentrations of disadvantage in disadvantaged schools.
Right.
So that is what's causing the issue. It's not that Australia somehow is teaching in a kind of inferior way. It's the inequalities in our community are reflected in our school system, and that's why we need to redress those inequalities.
So given that, the Education Minister is suggesting that he wouldn't be opposed to the idea of importing teachers, particularly in science and maths specialist teachers, I would say that you would say that's not the answer.
Well, it's a bit of a nonsense. I'm not sure where he's going to fly them in from. He certainly couldn't fly them in from the UK or Germany or the USA or Denmark, Switzerland, Portugal and those countries, because they're doing worse than Australia. And that's another distraction. There's one thing I'm going to say about the Federal Minister. He's a master at the art of distraction. He'll do anything but fund the system according to the Gonski principles of needs-based. And that's what we're saying. Tackle the problems at the root cause, which is the inequities, and not these distractions as though somehow the fault lies with the quality of our teaching.
Does it also put a bit of a slight on the teachers themselves, saying, well, we're not good enough in your eyes? You know, I would assume that we've got many talented maths and science teachers within Australia. We don't necessarily need to bring some in from outside.
Absolutely. We've got a great capacity in this country to attract young people into teaching. We need to put clearly more resources into higher education. We need to stop capping teachers' salaries and attract maths and science graduates into teaching. But that's not the root cause of the problem. The OECD is at pains, sprinkled throughout the entire report, statement after statement, that goes to Australia's inequitable education system as the root cause of our problems.
So what fixes that inequity? Is it more funding, and is it more teachers going out to these disadvantaged areas?
It's targeting the funding. It is additional funding, absolutely. We are below the OECD average in terms of funding. We're achieving above the OECD average, but our funding levels is about at the OECD average. The Gonski money has not flowed into schools yet. In our 3rd year of the Gonski funding, we're only about less than a fifth of the money has been allocated. Most of the money is in the final 2 years, the very 2 years which the Turnbull government is saying they will not fund. We need them to reverse that policy, fund the system, and the money then goes to the schools that have the greatest need. It's sector blind. It doesn't matter whether it's a Catholic, an independent or a public school. It says what are the students' needs, let's put the money there. And 80% of that recurrent funding goes towards employing additional teachers, smaller class sizes, professional learning and those kind of teaching and learning resources.
Maurie Mulheron, great to have you in the studio. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.